Well, hello students and welcome back to the classroom. Tim here from Lessons on the Web once again, and today we are talking about learning your first classical piano pieces. So if you've been playing piano for a little while, you can play basic two-handed stuff, then you may be ready to tackle your first classical piano song. In this lesson, we're going to talk about some of the things I recommend you be on the lookout for when learning your first classical piano piece, as well as three of the pieces that I recommend you start with. The three pieces we're going to be talking about today are Prelude in C major by Johann Sebastian Bach, the Minuet in G found in the notebook of Anna Magdalena Bach, and the last part is we are going to talk about the first part of Für Elise, a very common one by Beethoven. So let's get on with the lesson and get started. So you're a beginning piano student and you're ready to take on your first classical piano piece. What are some of the things you should be looking for? What are some of the things that I recommend you do and as a beginner to prepare? So one of the things you probably want to do to prepare is learn how to do, two-handed piano songs. And you definitely want to be familiar with playing in like C position, G position, and things like that. Just playing in a couple of different positions. You can play simple two-handed songs like Jingle Bells and things like that. If you can do that, then you might be ready to tackle these. Also, knowing your scales really helps, but not actually a lot of these songs we're talking about today, you don't really have to know all of your scales or anything, but it's important that you know just the very basics of playing the piano, what a scale is, and how to play simple two-handed songs. And by the way, in this lesson, when I mention classical music, I'm really meaning in the broader sense, so you will actually see some Bach in here, which is, as you know, Baroque and not necessarily the classical period, but I just mean in a very general sense. So some of the things you should look for in a piano piece if you're a beginner are things like rhythm complexity, pitch complexity. Are you moving hand positions a whole lot? Are the rhythms really easy, or are they really hard, or are they something that you could figure out in a few minutes? So you always want to be considering, obviously, how difficult is this piece and how much higher up is it compared to the things that you're playing right now. If you're trying to play the piece and it just seems impossible, then it probably means you should learn some other songs and pieces leading up to the one you really want to play. Okay, so this is the number one piece I recommend you start with as a beginner. Now you may be looking at it and thinking, wow, that's really not that easy, right? That looks hard. Or you may be thinking it looks easy. Well, the great thing about this piece and why I recommend it as your first one is, first of all, the rhythm complexity, even though it looks complex if you're not used to something like this, it really isn't. It's very even. And nothing crazy, no dotted rhythms, and nothing really like that. Now, one thing you want to consider is like holding down the first half note. Whoops. Sorry. So you always want to hold down the first half note of each half of the measure. But once you hit those first two notes, you really don't have to do much else except play those top six notes. And then another reason I recommend it is it only changes a little bit measure to measure. So very little hand position changes are going on here. It's a very even tempo, nothing out of the ordinary, even though it does look scary maybe with the 16th notes. Just don't let it scare you, and you'll do all right. So there's just a little taste for you. I'll play the whole thing here in a minute. So another great thing about it is it's in the key of C, right? So the key signature is one of the top things you should look for when you learn a piece of music, as we talked about in one of our previous lessons. And being in the key of C is perfect for a first piano song, your first classical music piano song. Okay, now I'm going to play this entire piece. One thing I want to say is the real challenge, yet the real reward in this piece, is after you're learning the notes, to put in the dynamics. Now, this one doesn't have dynamics written in, and I could explain where you could figure that out if they're not written in. It has to do with the tensions and the chords and things like that. But like I said, this lesson isn't for that topic. So basically, you want to follow the dynamics. You want to find a version of the piece that has the dynamics written in for you. So there you go, the Prelude in C by Bach. So this is another Bach piece. This is Minuet in G, and it's another one I recommend. I recommend you do this one after the Prelude in C, but it isn't much more difficult. It is definitely in a different key, so you want to take a look at your key signature and think, all right, how many sharps and how many flats do we have? Well, I have one sharp, F sharp, so we're in the key of G, and G position. That's why I said in the beginning of the lesson, make sure you're used to playing in C position and G position and a couple of other different positions, and being able to change hand position ever so slightly. Here are some of the reasons I really recommend this song. I recommend this song because, first of all, the rhythms are easy. So remember I said look out for the rhythm complexity. It's not that bad. It's quarter notes, eighth notes. There's a couple of ornamentations here. I'm actually going to leave those out only because as a beginner piano student, I wouldn't worry about those because they take a little bit more finesse to play. And like I said, this is just really getting into your first classical piano piece. Another reason I recommend it is it's very repetitive in its patterns, as you can see actually from the music itself. Already lots of patterns. You can see how the first measure and the third measure and the second measure and the fourth measure here each look very similar. This version's not that bad. Now, you may be looking at the pedal marking and being like, what is that? I don't know what that is. You may be used to seeing the ones that are like the little brackets that are down below the staff that have like the little spikes in them to where you lifted the pedal. This, you hold down the pedal, and then as soon as you see that little like flower thing, you're going to pop up the pedal and press it down when it says PED again. So that's just how it works. It's the same symbol, or the same meaning, different symbol. Here we go. Oh, let me get into some of the reasons I recommend this one. First of all, this song is more requested than any other song I get, and I find that a lot of younger students can handle this one. Some of them can, and it's really because this is the most difficult of the ones I'm going to recommend today. Some of the things that make it a little more challenging is that you are changing hand position a lot more, and the span of your hands needs to be pretty wide to be able to play this one. Although you can use little techniques to expand your range there. And use the pedal, of course, to connect the notes. So the notes are a little bit further apart, different hand positions are going on. There's also quite a few more accidentals, so you have to know about sharps and naturals and things like that. And there's also repeats with first ending, second ending, so it's a little more difficult. However, it is fairly repetitive, which makes it a little bit easier. So once you learn this part, it doesn't take people to learn up to there very long. And luckily, just on this first page alone, it happens 4 times, taking up quite a bit of the first page. And then the left hand repeats as well, making it not impossible to play. Obviously, like I said, this is the last one on the list, and it actually does mean that I recommend you learn this one after you learn the other two, because it is quite a little bit harder, but still manageable in my opinion. Here we go. So I only recommend you learn the first page. Actually, do not learn the last line if you're using this version. It's really just the first part of the song. So just the first part of the song. That includes the beginning theme there. And then also there's like a second smaller section here. And then you go back to the first section again. And then just end it right here instead of continuing, just to end on this A here. And that's as far as you want to go if you are a beginner, because the second and third major part of this piece are a bit more difficult. Now, they're manageable if you have been playing classical pieces for a while and you've worked your way up to here. You might be able to handle it, but as you can see, it does get quite a bit more complicated. And then it keeps going. So as you can see, it gets more complicated, but that first part does come up again. So once you learn that first part, you actually do have about at least a third, maybe to half of the song learned, because that part comes up many times in the piece. Attention students, do you like my piano teaching style? Do you like the videos on this channel? Well, you're going to love my website, pianolessonsontheweb.com, because if you become a member of the website, you'll gain access to, I think, over 17 courses that I've made about playing the piano, music theory, composition, improvisation, rhythm, sight reading, and tons more that will not only really blow the lid off of your piano playing ability, but will also give you a really firm grip on your understanding of music as well. It covers a lot of topics and things I'm not going to cover on the YouTube channel, as the same videos that you love, there are exclusive videos to the website, with the same style of videos that you love, same teaching style and everything, along with printable sheet music examples. And by the way, you can save all this stuff to your computer for easy access. But it not only videos, but it also comes with a lot of other things, assignments, sheet music examples, and things like that to really solidify your learning. So it's really basically what's offered on the YouTube channel times 10. It really will, help you achieve that greater level of piano playing and music understanding. So head over there today, pianolessonsontheweb.com, and put in the code STUDENT15 to get 15% off of any enrollment today. So thanks as always, and I'll talk to you in the next lesson. Thank you so much.